Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Hopefully you're doing quite well. If you're not, hopefully you will be better after this. Let your hair down, sit back, relax, pop an apple juice, adult apple juice, or an apple juice, whatever, and just enjoy yourself. So we are going to hit Lego Masters here today. This was episode number 7 for season 4, and they made designer handbags based on a season. Spring, summer, fall, winter, the whole season thing. For those of you that have all 4 seasons, we do not. We have scorching summer. We have slightly less scorching summer. We have ice and rain winter. And then we have pretty decent spring filled with tornadoes and ravaging thunderstorms. Those are normal seasons, right? Dear God. Anyway, so we lead off with Sam and Nina, and they chose to do spring messenger bag. Holy crap, right out of the gate. They also did a photo shoot, right? This was for the Brick Chic magazine, and whoever had the best bag went on this little magazine cover. Their bag was amazing. It looked absolutely amazing. Nina was in the photo shoot. You'd have never guessed that she was more of an elder age. Definitely didn't feel it with that. I mean, that would have been, I don't know what kind of magazine it would have been on, but I could definitely see that being a photo that was used. Anyway, the thing about their bag is it's very large. It's colorful. It's rounded, but it has a very Eastery color feel to it, with all of the light blues, kind of like the pastel colors, but like the blue and the lighter green. It's mixed with, the purple and then the white. Like, I felt like I was looking at an Easter egg. It was, after you dye an Easter egg, those of you that don't do that, thing around Easter or don't celebrate Easter, you're not going to understand that. But you take an egg, it gets hard boiled, and then you decorate it with different dyes and stuff like that, and whatever decoration you want to do. But that is what it felt like to me. It also had a brick built flower that was on it, which I thought was really nice. They also had a brick built logo done in it as well. They had a strap that was kind of fun with the colors, but it had alternating plates, and that I like the way that was done. Think about it as left, right, but they were overlapping by maybe a stud, I think, a width of a stud. And they were connected by a bunch of ball joints, little mixel ball joints. So that was kind of fun. I did like that. So this thing was rounded in a way that I've seen before and most people have seen before. If you try and get a spiral in Lego, what do? Right? You take bricks and plates and you attach them one stud. You don't like a 2x2 or a 1x2 brick. You don't attach a 1x2 plate on top of it. You attach it on top with one stud, but not both studs. So over time, you get this curved shape, which is great. Think about it as, somebody that, like a brick mason, somebody like that is laying bricks to be able to get this curved path or whatever over time. It's possible, right? So that is essentially what they did there. And I was just a fan of the way that was done. Jamie loved the sides of this because the sides of it were flat, right? You have this nice rounded in the front and the back, on the top, on the bottom. And then on the sides, it was flat. So getting the flat plates on the side to fit into those rounded edges on the bottom, on the sides, on the top, that takes a lot of different type of building to be able to get it close enough. You're never going to match it perfect, but to get it close enough so you don't see these giant, air holes and see all the ugliness on the inside. So that was really nice. Jamie was not a fan though of the strap. He said it looked really uncomfortable. So it is what it is. I'm a big fan of the bag. I think it turned out well. I mean, I could see somebody wearing this bag, hello, Miss Bricks. I think you might have a a new calling in life. So we move on to Allison and Melanie. They did the Summer California Beach Bag. It had a sun on one side and a moon on the other. If any of you are a fan of MotoGP, motorcycle racing, if you know what MotoGP is, most of you have probably heard of Valentino Rossi if you live over in Europe, the great Italian rider who is retired. But he, on his helmet, ever since he started racing, had a sun on one side and the moon on the other. So that was, I was like, ooh, I love that. But it's funny because they had wheels on the bottom of the bag. It was a very hard rectangular shape. And what I mean by hard rectangular shape is there was like the edges were as squared off can be. And the problem with that is it didn't look as appealing. And I'll explain a little bit of where I'm kind of going with that here in a second. So it had a handle / strap, whatever you want to call it, that could come off, right? You would take off one side and it becomes this like a rope almost that you're towing this thing along, because it had 4 wheels, one on each corner, or I guess it was dual wheels on each corner. If you think of like a piece of luggage, right? It was a little odd, but I was like, okay, whatever. But I'm not a fan of the bottom. The bottom was as naked and as ugly as can be. You know, the bottom side of large plates. It just did not go very well. I don't think it went over well at all. Obviously the judges, we'll talk about here in a moment, weren't a big fan of it, but the rectangular shape. And then when I'm seeing the wheels, I'm seeing the rectangular shape, you know, I'm thinking a luggage bag immediately, not so much a handbag. And then when the strap comes off and they said, oh, you can pull it, I'm thinking a beach wagon, a kid's wagon. I'm like, okay, that's not going to work here as much as it probably needs to. So Amy had mentioned that she felt it was a little too square and she definitely wanted more curvature, which I agree. I had already mentioned that straight out of the gate and I was like, hey, you know, we need some more curves in here. So Lewis and Alex were up here and they did the summer beach bag. Their photo shoot was actually pretty funny. I thought it was pretty interesting to see Alex get down into like a type of Speedo thigh shorts and not a bikini Speedo. And, you know, to do this summer shoot, it was just kind of funny. And Will was, you know, throwing his jokes at about, you know, I don't ever want to see that again. And, you know, it was just kind of funny. Anyway, they chose to go with an 80s style bag with 80s coloring. I could definitely see it, but it had a triangular shape to it. Things looked a little bit rough around the edges, you know, where things come together, but I don't think it looked horrible. There were just not any real connection points. Like you would expect at some point to have some kind of connection point just to slightly tie things in. Now, I don't know how they could have done it, but I'm sure there was a way. Maybe if they had some more time, it could obviously have been done. Obviously, anybody that has more time could have done so. But I really like the colors that they went with. They did green, they did pink, they did blue, they did white. Very much an 80s kind of fabric-y type design feel. I felt it. And I was curious. I kind of liked the strap that they chose to make, and it went the entire way around the bag. And it was made of those tread pieces that Lego uses for tracked vehicles. Something you would see on like an excavator or a bulldozer, right? And then they just put plates on those to, you know, give it some color and stuff like that, break it up a little bit. But one of the things that I noticed was this bag was extraordinarily flimsy. It looked as if you were going to touch it a little bit too much that it would break apart. And one of the things that happened in the episode is, you know, when they were getting ready as you know, the clock is ticking down, they're coming up against the time wall and they're kind of like freaking out because of how flimsy the thing really is. And it looked pretty neat, but definitely not their best work. I'll say that. So Christopher and Robert, they did the fall leaf handbag. Holy gorgeous build. The texturing with all the slopes, exquisite, absolutely exquisite. They nailed it 100%. The leaf design, oh my dear God, like the maple leaf that they chose to use, The leaf design was done so perfectly, and the colors fit together so well, like two Lego bricks. I know you're like, I see what you did. I'm serious. I thought about how to best describe how the way that was done. The colors and everything that was attached to it, with that gold design around the different colors of reds, the dark reds and stuff like that, it just screamed perfection, like clicking two bricks together. It was perfect. They even had a clasp that opens and closes the bag. They also had a little designer logo on there. Couldn't have been any better. I'm a giant fan that they took the idea of a leaf and did it that way. Now, one of the things that I found fascinating was, I guess maybe not fascinating, but more endearing. Christopher said that he gave this heartfelt story about his mom and the inspiration for the bag, based on, I believe something about the leaves. I can't even 100% remember. I did not write it down. Anyway, but, bringing that kind of moment that he had with his mom and putting it into the inspiration of the bag, or taking that inspiration and putting it into the design of the bag, is great. Jamie, of course, loved the gold trim. I thought it looked great. Paul and Nalita, they did the Winter Wonder Perks bag. It is a massive bag, a bag that you could put a smaller, maybe not a smaller, but small dog you could put in there. And that's essentially what she was thinking about with her dog and stuff like that. Dogs, I believe she said. So, but there were lots of gray tiles and blue tiles as accents. So the gray was the base of the bag, and then blue for some accents down the large side of the bag if you go from top to bottom. The handles on there, they were thick, but they were functional, right? To run your whole arm through, like your wrist to your elbow. So that was nice. And Jamie just gushed about the zipper on this. So the zipper stuck out because it was white, and they used teeth. They used the plated teeth pieces, and they also used a skeleton, what is supposed to be the handle of the zipper. And he must have said it twice. A skeleton is what I believe is the zipper. Yeah, he was gaga for it. Amy, however, did want a few small details, like the luggage tag that was on there. Maybe a little bit of work with the logo. I could see that, but I mean, they did a pretty good job. So Emily and Kelly were up. They did the spring asymmetrical handbag, and you could definitely see the asymmetrics here. The spring bag that they did, okay, it had way too many details when she was trying to describe it. When Kelly was, all I heard was spring bag. And then I heard stitching, and that's about it. Like, she started going down, like, stitching this way, and it's got this, and it's got this kind of faux leather or whatever. I'm like, oh, girl, you lost me. But I will say, I love the usage of the sand green slope pieces and then the gold trim around each of the individual squares. So what they did is they built individual squares. I'm assuming then they latched them onto the bag, and then they built gold trim around it. They used the little 1x2 little grill vent pieces, whatever you want to call them. So they used those, and what they did with each square. So let's say the curvature was going from bottom to top. Then it was going from side to side with the next square. So they had this alternating pattern, which, I thought was really sharp. And Amy had even mentioned that she loved the slopes done in that alternating directions, because it felt like woven fabric. And I agree. That's exactly what it looked like. So both judges talked about the shape and how it looked kind of rough, which I guess you could see that a little bit. More specifically, they mentioned kind of like not necessarily the sides, like the big, large sides, but the skinnier sides, I think is what they were getting at. And some of those contact points don't look as clean as maybe they should have. And then Amy touched on the hinges that were showing. So, some work to be done there, but pretty good overall. So the top two this week ended in Paul and Nalita and Christopher and Robert. No doubt in my mind that these two were the best. Sam and Nina, you could have told me, could have been in there. I think Sam and Nina or Paul and Nalita, both, either one could have been in there. I almost pinned in Sam and Nina, and then they did Paul and Nalita, and I was like, okay. Christopher and Robert were a shoo-in, without a doubt. And of course they won. And I don't mean it like, of course they won. I mean, you look at their bag and you're like, yeah, they're going to win this. They were the first ones to go. I had no doubt afterwards that they were going to win this. So that leaves us with the bottom two. We ended up with Allison and Melanie, and then Lewis and Alex. First timers. We've got new basement dwellers in Lewis and Alex. Did not see that one coming. Okay. I shouldn't say that I didn't see it coming, but you look at comparison and, I went through and I'm like, okay, was it better than Emily and Kelly? No. Okay. Paul and Nolita were in the top two. Christopher and Robert were in the top two. Alice and Melanie are already down there. Are they better than Sam and Nina? No. So naturally they've got to be in the bottom two. So, a tough sledding there. The team that went home, Allison and Melanie, unfortunately, and, they made up their, second time of being in the basement dwellers. We are seeing this second time through going home. Jordan and Chris, Tim and Tim, Allison and Melanie, Aubrey and Ryan. Don't go down there. Don't go down there. It's not a good thing. So now Lewis and Alex are down in there. They are a part of the basement dweller clan. And, one time, usually we're seeing you hit that second time, you're pretty much out of here. So I guess we'll see moving forward. So let's talk power rankings. Obviously, Allison and Melanie are gone, so we don't have a sixth team anymore. Technically, they would be in the bottom, but they are no longer here. So let's look at number 5, and let's talk about our comparisons. So last week, the bottom, we had 6 teams after Aubrey and Ryan left. At the bottom, we had Allison and Melanie. Why? They finished in the bottom. They became a basement dweller. Never a good thing. We talked about it last week and I was like, this is not very good. They are not showing their strengths. They haven't done it in a few weeks and it bit them last week. It bit them again this week and it booted them out. So that's tough. So last week, number 5, we had Sam and Nina. Sam and Nina were going through some issues and stuff over the last few weeks. And unfortunately, they ended up further down. Well, this week they moved up. So this week we have Emily and Kelly at number 5. And you're probably like, holy crap, what? They dropped from 4? Okay, hear me out now. Okay, Sam and Nina were at number 5. They have moved up since, and you'll find out where. But the thing is, their bag was definitely 3rd. And if you think about who they just jumped Emily and Kelly. That's it. They just swapped spots, essentially, is where they ended up. So number 4 this week, we have Lewis and Alex. Yeah, what a fall from grace. From number 1 down to number 4. Matt, are you crazy? Absolutely. Absolutely I am. And I'm taking into the account of the whole picture, right? The build was not great in comparison to others. And, finishing in that bottom 2, that's going to drop you. It's got a lot of weight to drop you. If you would have finished, let's say you'd have finished like 3rd, you'd have been in that Sam Nina spot where, things were kind of okay. And you may have finished 3rd. You're probably only dropping to number 2, maybe at worst number 3 in power rankings. But man, it's a tough go. So hopefully next week they can pull it out and start getting on a better track. So this week, number 3, we have Sam and Nina. Sam and Nina moving up. They moved up 2 spots. They jumped Lewis and Alex. They jumped to Emily and Kelly. Why? Because their build honestly could have been in one of the top 2. It wasn't going to beat Christopher and Robert. Could it have beaten Paul and Nolita? Yes. I think you have them as 2A and 2B right there. Number 2 this week, we have Paul and Nolita. They are just continuing this climb. And when we do our finale of this whole thing and we talk about where they came from, I mean, they've never been a basement dweller, but they have always been a team that was kind of near the bottom end of the field, then through the middle, and they're just continuing this rise. They were at number 2 last week. They stay at number 2 again this week. And the reason they stay at number 2 is because Christopher and Robert knocked this thing out of the ballpark. Without a doubt, they had the best design. I think if you were going to give it so if we're going to do the rating scale of 1 to 10, 0 to 10, I think based on what they had in the time limits they were dealt, Christopher and Robert probably have a 9.5. Paul and Nolita, maybe an 8.75. Maybe you could talk me into 9. And for that, I think they've done enough, and they've been above Paul and Nalita many, many, many times in different builds. So I'm giving them the bump up. Lewis and Alex definitely have to drop, though, just because they just, not good. So Paul and Nalita hold down second again. Christopher and Robert are at that number 1 spot. And I think that's legit. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. No, that shouldn't be the case. Or so-and-so should be here and not there. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. So I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to do it right now. So we have 5 teams left. Man, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Christopher and Robert win this thing. I have had an inkling from the beginning, from when we did the pre-launching episodes, whatever, premiere, talking to them, it was going to be a tough road for everybody else. Lewis and Alex, I got a good feeling about back then, but not a whole lot of others. Nina, yes, but I've said, I think Nina she's definitely the weak point in that pairing, but we'll see moving forward. So I'm calling my shot. Christopher and Robert are going to win it all. I think Lewis and Alex will probably finish second. I think next week, they're doing RC cars next week. Here's where I think what is going to happen. I think Emily and Kelly are hanging around there at the bottom, have throughout the season. They were not a basement dweller this week, but I think it's going to be between them and Sam and Nina that I just foresee something happening with Sam and Nina that Sam's not going to be able to overcome it by himself. And I could be 100% wrong. So I think next week we're going to either see Sam and Nina or Emily and Kelly go home. And if any of the other 3 go home, okay. But I think Christopher and Robert are going to win it all. I think Lewis and Alex will probably finish second, or Paul and Nalita. You could talk me into either one, honestly, but we'll see. And if my horse gets taken out in a few episodes before the finale, fine. I'll eat crow. I'm good with it. Anyway, so maybe next season we'll put out a thing so that everybody can do their power ranks. We can do a survivor pool. I love doing survivor pools. They're so much fun. Anyway, so that's going to wrap it up for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's belt on it.